the edge of the tower. The wind was cold and sharp at the top of the floating tower. Gray clouds moved slowly below, hiding the deep fall beneath the platform. The air felt thin. The city lights behind her were silent. No one came to stop her. No one cared. Valshera stood at the edge, her bare feet just inches away from the end. Her purple skin shimmered softly under the pale light. Her white hair blew in the wind like silk threads. Her golden eyes stared into the empty sky. She didn't cry. Her tears had dried long ago. She was only 19 star cycles old, but she had already lost everything. Her own people had pushed her out. Impure, they had called her. Failed. All because her mind link ceremony failed. Every girl from her tribe had to connect their spirit to the stars, but she couldn't. She was different. And in her world, different meant dangerous. Shameful. They shaved her head. They marked her arms with blue ink, the symbol of failure. And then they left her outside the city walls. She had wandered for days until she found this tower. Old, forgotten, standing high in the clouds. A good place to disappear. She stepped forward. Her toes now dangled slightly over the edge. No one would miss her. No one would remember her. And then, stop. The voice was loud, deep, human. She turned slightly. A man stood across the platform, panting, hands on his knees. He wore a dark jacket with strange patches on the shoulders. Dust and scratches covered his clothes. His face was rough, with short brown hair and stubble. But his eyes were soft, full of worry. I said stop, he repeated. Don't do it. Valshera blinked. Her voice came out dry. Why? Who are you? The man stepped closer, slowly, like she was a wild animal. My name's Darren. Darren, Cole. I don't want to watch someone die today. She laughed bitterly. You don't even know me. You're right, he said. I don't. But I know that jump is forever, and no one deserves to make that choice alone. She looked back down at the sky below. I already made my choice. Darren didn't stop walking. Then give me 5 minutes. After that, if you still want to jump, I won't stop you. Valshera turned her face toward him. Why should I give you anything? Darren's voice was quiet now. Because I've been where you are. The words stopped her. She didn't move, but she didn't jump either. 5 minutes, he said again gently. Come sit with me. Valshera stepped back, slowly, one step, then another. Her legs felt weak. Her heart beat loudly. Finally, she turned and walked toward him, past the middle of the platform. Her hands were shaking. Darren sat down on the floor and patted the ground next to him. After a pause, she sat too, keeping a little space between them. The city's tall towers glowed in the distance like sleeping giants. Below them, thick clouds rolled and shifted like waves in a sea of mist. Darren took a deep breath. I came here 5 years ago. Ship crash. Lost my crew. I was the only one who made it. Broken leg. No food. No one to talk to. Valshera looked at him with quiet eyes. How did you survive? He shrugged. Didn't want to die. Not that way. Not with no one knowing my name. I crawled for miles until a junk trader picked me up. She didn't answer, but her fingers tightened on her knees. I don't know what you went through, Darren said, but I can see it in your eyes. You're not weak. You're tired. You've been carrying pain for too long. Valshera looked down. Her voice cracked. I failed the mind link. I was supposed to become a star sister, but the spirits didn't answer me. They marked me and threw me out. And that's why you were going to die? He asked softly. She nodded. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small silver disc. This is my crew's ID tag. I wear it every day, for them, because I still breathe. She looked at the tag, then at him. Why did you stop me? Darren looked her straight in the eyes. Because your life might not mean anything to them. But maybe it means something to someone you haven't met yet. Maybe it even means something to me. Valshera's breath caught. For the first time, in a long time, she didn't feel invisible. The wind blew again, but this time she didn't stand up to fall. She stayed sitting, still broken, still afraid. But now, maybe curious. A scarred past. The night had fully fallen over the floating city. The clouds beneath the tower turned dark and heavy, like a black sea stretching into forever. High, winds made soft, ghostly sounds as they passed through broken glass and metal cracks of the old tower. Valshera and Darren still sat on the cold platform, now leaning against a broken pillar for support. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It was full of unspoken pain and strange comfort, the kind that only lost souls could understand. Valshera's arms were wrapped around her knees. Her glowing eyes looked out at nothing. She hadn't said much after Darren's last words, but something had changed in her. She had stepped away from death's edge, and now she wanted to know why she was still alive. Darren reached into his pack and pulled out a small heating pod. He tapped it twice and placed it between them. It glowed soft orange, spreading a gentle warmth in the cold air. "You hungry?" he asked, offering her a nutrition bar. Valshera looked at it like it was poison at first, then slowly she took it. She chewed silently. After a while, her voice broke the quiet. "You said you were the only one who survived your crash." He nodded. "Yeah, 10 of us on board. Engineers, explorers, 1 doctor. We were mapping uncharted systems. Got hit by a gravity mine. Ship went down in the Badlands. I still hear their voices sometimes when I sleep." She didn't ask more. She understood what it meant to be haunted. Valshera brushed her silver-white hair away from her face. "Do you want to know what happened to me?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Darren nodded. She stared at her hands. Her fingers glowed faint blue in the light. "In my tribe, when a girl reaches her 13th cycle, she must face the ceremony of calling. You sit alone in the dark under the star pillar. You must open your soul. If the stars answer, you are chosen. If not, you are forgotten." She paused, her jaw tight. I tried harder than anyone, but no star answered. My mind was quiet, empty, like something inside me was broken. She rolled up her sleeve and showed him a thin blue line of ink stretching from her wrist to her shoulder. "This is the mark of silence. They say it burns your future away." Darren leaned closer. "They did this to a child?" "I wasn't a child to them. I was a failure. They told me I brought shame to my bloodline." My mother turned her back. My brother didn't say goodbye. They shaved my head and threw me out of the city gates like garbage. She hugged her legs tightly. Her voice shook. I wandered for weeks. I ate fungus, drank dirty water. People spit at me, called me cursed. I finally climbed up this tower to end it all. Darren's fists clenched silently. "You didn't deserve any of that." Valshera looked at him surprised. "You don't even know me." "I don't need to," Darren said firmly. "What they did to you was wrong. You were just a girl trying to belong." A sudden sound made them both freeze. Click. It came from the shadows behind one of the pillars. Darren stood quickly and pulled out a small blaster from his side holster. His eyes scanned the darkness. Valshera stood too, her body tense. "We're not alone." A soft, low growl echoed through the broken stone. Then from the mist stepped a creature, tall, 4-legged, its body covered in black scales and glowing eyes. It looked like a cross between a panther and a machine, a void stalker, a wild beast used by bounty hunters to track fugitives. Darren whispered, "That thing is here for someone." Valshera's face went pale. "Me. It's one of theirs. The elders must have sent it, to make sure I was dead." The creature growled louder and began to circle them. Darren aimed his weapon. "Stay behind me." But Valshera stepped forward instead. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "Wait," Darren hissed. "What are you doing?" "Something I couldn't do during the mind link," she whispered. Something I have to try. She reached out with her hand and spoke a word, in her native tongue. The word vibrated in the air like a song without sound. The creature paused. Its eyes flickered, it looked confused. Then, it sat. Darren's jaw dropped. How did you do that? Valshera opened her eyes, glowing with soft light. I don't know, but something inside me responded this time. Not the stars. Something else. They looked at the Void Stalker. It lowered its head. Then it turned and walked back into the mist. Valshera was breathing fast. I've never felt that before. Darren stared at her. Maybe you didn't fail. Maybe your connection wasn't broken. Maybe it was just different. A long silence passed between them. Valshera looked up at the stars. I thought I was empty, she whispered. But something just answered me. Not just a girl. The tower was silent again, but not in the same way. Something had changed. The Void Stalker was gone, and the air no longer felt heavy with death. Valshera stood with her hand still raised, as if the creature's energy still echoed through her fingertips. Her glowing eyes blinked slowly, trying to understand what had just happened. Darren lowered his weapon. His heart was still pounding, but his voice was calm. You controlled that thing, that wasn't luck. I didn't control it, Valshera said softly. I spoke to it. It heard me. She looked down at her hand like it wasn't hers. That's never happened before, the spirits never listened. Darren stepped closer, his eyes studying her face. Maybe it's not about spirits, maybe it's about you. They sat down again, this time closer. The heating pod had cooled, but they didn't care. Something warmer now sat between them. Curiosity, connection, maybe even hope. Valshera looked out into the night. That beast. Void Stalkers are only sent after people the Council considers dangerous. If they sent it after me, it means they still fear me. They should, Darren said without a smile. Because you're not just some outcast. She looked at him sharply. What do you mean? He reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out a small scanning tool. I didn't want to say anything earlier, but when I first saw you, something felt off. Not wrong, just different. I scanned your energy pattern from a distance. Then again, when you touched the creature. Valshera narrowed her eyes. You scanned me? I was trying to help, and what I found then was impossible. He pressed a button. A blue hologram appeared in the air. It showed a DNA strand, twisting, glowing, strange. This isn't normal, he said. You have star blood markers, ancient ones. I've only seen these in one place, inside a locked file from the old galactic archives. Bloodline markers of the Oravani Queens. Valshera blinked. That's a myth. The Oravani Queens died out thousands of cycles ago. No, Darren said. They vanished. There's a difference. He zoomed into the scan. This code is royal. It's genetic memory, buried deep in you. You're not just from any tribe. You are one of them. Valshera stood up suddenly, her breathing sharp. No, that can't be. I was born in the Outlands. My mother was a healer. My father died in the war. Darren stood too. Or that's what they told you. She backed away from him. No, I'm a failure. They cast me out. I don't belong anywhere. Darren didn't move. His voice remained calm. Maybe that's why they cast you out. Not because you failed, but because they were hiding something. Because they were afraid of what you are. Her legs shook. She leaned against a cracked wall, her voice trembling. If that's true, then everything I believed is a lie. Or maybe it means, Darren said gently, you were meant for something greater than you were told. Before she could answer, a loud boom echoed across the tower. They both dropped to the ground. A bright flare lit up the sky to the north, then another. Red warning signals. Missiles. Searchlights. Darren checked his wrist device. We've got incoming. Small airships, 3 of them. No call signs. That means black ops. Valshera's eyes widened. The elders must have tracked the beast's last signal. They know I'm still alive. Darren grabbed his gear. We need to move, now. She didn't argue. They raced down the broken tower stairs, moving fast through the shadows. The cold wind pushed against them, but they kept going. Darren led her through a back path, away from the main city lights. Soon, they reached a hidden cave beneath the cliff. Inside was a small camp, an old tent, 2 hover bikes, supplies. Darren handed her a coat and goggles. Put these on, he said. We ride through the canyon. If we reach the Signal Valley, I can call for help. Valshera put the coat on with shaky hands. Who will come for us? Darren tightened his pack. An old friend, a smuggler. He owes me a life. He won't ask questions. They jumped on the bikes. The engines roared to life, echoing into the night. As they flew into the dark canyon, the lights from above began to sweep down. Search drones chased after them. Plasma bolts rained from the sky. Valshera looked over her shoulder. They're gaining on us. Hold on. Darren shouted. He tapped a button on the bike's side panel. A hidden path opened between 2 giant rocks. They dove through just in time. The canyon twisted and turned, full of sharp corners and glowing moss walls. Valshera felt fear, but also adrenaline. She wasn't running toward death now. She was racing toward truth. After what felt like forever, they burst out of the canyon into a valley full of strange humming crystals. This is it, Darren said. Signal Valley. He threw down a beacon disc. It flashed 3 times, then sent a blue beam into the stars. Valshera looked up. What if no one answers? They will, he said. And then, in the silence of the valley, a distant voice came through the comm. Darren Cole, we read your signal. Prepare for pickup. Valshera stared at the sky, her heart pounding. She wasn't just an outcast. She wasn't just a failure. She was a secret hidden from history, and someone up there still wanted her gone. Hunters from the sky. The sky trembled above the Signal Valley. A beam of blue light still glowed from Darren's beacon, reaching into the heavens like a cry for help. But now the wind carried something else, the sound of approaching death. Valshera stood beside Darren, her eyes fixed on the dark clouds forming in the distance. The light from the valley's humming crystals reflected in her glowing pupils, but her face was pale. They're not wasting time, she whispered. Darren checked the display on his wrist device. 3 ship, no IDs. Fast approach. 30 seconds out. Valshera clutched the edge of her coat. Those aren't just hunters, they're execution squads. Elders send them to erase bloodlines. No survivors. Not this time, Darren said, loading a fresh charge into his plasma rifle. The air filled with the roar of engines. Moments later, 3 sleek black alien ships burst through the clouds. Their design was cold and sharp. Long wings, glowing red cores, and no visible markings. Shadows of death. They hovered like vultures, circling above the valley. A voice echoed from a speaker in the lead ship, cold, robotic, and filled with finality. Target Valshera identified. You are classified as Rogue Royal Blood. Termination. Authorized. No appeal, no delay. Valshera stepped forward, rage and fear burning in her eyes. You cast me out, then come to kill me because I lived? Darren pulled her back. Not yet. Let them make the first move. The first ship dropped a hunter drone, a tall, spider-like machine with glowing red sensors and sharp blades for arms. It landed in front of them with a heavy thud. More drones followed, encircling them like a steel cage. Darren raised his rifle. We've got no cover here, Valshera whispered. Then we fight in the open. She stepped in front of him and took a deep breath. Her hands trembled at first, but then glowed. Faint at first, then brighter. Sparks danced along her fingers. The lead drone spoke. You have no training, no army. Submit, and your death will be painless. Valshera raised her hand, and something awoke. A wave of invisible energy exploded from her chest. The crystal valley shook. The drone staggered, confused. Several powered down, their lights dimming. Darren blinked. What was that? Valshera fell to one knee, breathing hard. I don't know. It's like something inside me heard the danger. The remaining drones attacked. Darren opened fire. Blue plasma bolts ripped through one machine's leg. It collapsed in sparks. Another lunged toward Valshera, its blade raised. She rolled aside and grabbed a sharp crystal shard from the ground. It glowed in her hand, reacting to her energy. She stabbed the shard into the drone's eye. It exploded in a burst of green fire. Darren shouted, "Behind you!" She spun just in time to duck as a drone swung a blade across the air where her neck had been. A second later, a beam of white light sliced through the drone's torso. A ship had arrived. Not one of the enemies, but something bigger. A rebel craft, shaped like a winged hammer, broke through the clouds with blinding lights and heavy shields. It dropped a sonic charge onto the ground. The blast sent the remaining drones flying backward. The enemy ships turned their fire to the newcomer, but it was too late. Missiles launched from the rebel ship struck one enemy craft. The sky lit up as it burst into flames. The second enemy ship turned to escape, but the rebel vessel chased it into the clouds, engines screaming. The last ship hesitated, then cloaked and vanished. Silence fell again. Valshera sat on the ground, covered in dirt, blood, and glowing dust. Her breath
came in gasps.
Her hands shook. Darren kneeled beside her. You okay? She nodded weakly. I think I just did something impossible. You think? He said with a shaky smile. You just shorted out half a death squad with your heartbeat. The rebel ship lowered toward them and its hatch opened. A tall, armored figure stepped out. His face was covered, but his voice carried strength. Valshera? He asked. She stood slowly. Yes. The figure bowed. I am Commander Ryvek. Your signal reached our High Council. You carry the bloodline of the Oravani Queens. We have come to protect you. Valshera's mouth opened slightly. Protect me. Why? Because, he said, removing his helmet, revealing a battle-scarred alien face with gold eyes. You are our last hope. Behind him, more soldiers stepped down. They wore armor with an ancient symbol, the royal crest of the Oravani line. Valshera looked at Darren. This is too much. I was ready to end my life. And now I'm surrounded by warriors saying I'm their queen? He touched her arm. Maybe this was always meant to happen. You just needed to survive long enough to reach this moment. Commander Ryvek gestured to the ship. Come. There is much to explain. And not much time. Your enemies now know what you are. They will not stop. Valshera took a deep breath. Then she stepped forward. She wasn't running anymore. She was stepping into something bigger than she had ever imagined. The voice. She found. The hum of the rebel ship vibrated through Valshera's bones. She sat in a quiet chamber deep inside the craft, wrapped in a silver cloak one of the soldiers had given her. Her fingers were still stained with glowing dust from the valley, and her thoughts raced faster than the engines. Across from her sat Darren, silent, arms folded. He watched her, concerned but respectful. He didn't speak. He knew she needed space. After everything, being hunted, learning the truth about her blood, that impossible energy wave, it was too much to take in all at once. Then the door slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Ryvek entered, now without his helmet. His scarred face looked like it had seen 100 wars. But his eyes, gold and sharp, studied her not as a soldier, but as a student looks at a missing piece of prophecy. Valshera, he said, bowing his head slightly. May I speak with you? She nodded slowly. You said you serve the Oravani bloodline. He stepped forward. Yes, my ancestors were sworn protectors of the Queen's house. When the royal line disappeared, we went underground. We thought the bloodline was gone forever, until your energy signal reached the valley. She frowned. But I didn't mean to send anything, it just happened. Ryvek nodded. That's what makes it real. The true queens didn't need machines to call power. Their voices were enough. He walked to a wall and touched a panel. A part of the room lit up and slid open, revealing a staircase. "Come with me," he said. "There's something you must see." Valshera hesitated, then stood. Darren moved to follow, but Rivek raised a hand. "Just her, for now." Darren nodded slowly. "I'll wait." Valshera followed Rivek down the narrow stairway. The air grew colder as they descended. Faint lights along the walls lit their path. They reached a chamber below the ship, round, ancient, and glowing with strange symbols etched into the floor. At the center was a pedestal with a floating orb, soft, pulsing light within it. Valshera stepped closer, drawn by some invisible pull. "This," Rivek said, "is the heart echo. It's one of the last royal relics. It responds only to Orivani, blood. None of us could wake it. We kept it safe for generations, waiting for a true heir." He stepped back. "Touch it." Valshera's hand trembled as she reached out. The moment her fingers touched the orb, the entire chamber pulsed with light. The symbols on the floor lit up, dancing with golden fire. The orb lifted higher and then spoke. A voice filled the air, not from speakers but from the walls. The light, the very air itself. "Daughter of silence, now you speak." Valshera gasped. "What is this?" The voice continued. "You carry the forgotten thread, the breath of the broken line. Your power is not like theirs. It is older, wilder, unshaped, but it is yours." Rivek stared in awe. "It's responding to you after all these years." The orb spun slowly, revealing a star map inside it, points of light connected in strange patterns. A hidden region in the galaxy, locked behind static. "The true throne lies where the stars once wept," the voice said. "There, your fate waits to be chosen, not by blood but by will." The orb dimmed, returning to silence. Valshera stepped back, heart racing. What did it mean? The throne? Fate? Rivek stepped forward. "It means the royal palace, the Ecliptar spire. Still exists, hidden, protected, maybe damaged, but it's real." He touched the pedestal. "And it means only you can find it." Valshera swallowed hard. "I don't know how to lead anyone." "You already are," Rivek said simply. "By surviving, by speaking, by choosing to live." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. A voice echoed over the comms. "Commander, enemy ships approaching, 5 signatures, fast and armed." Rivek cursed. "They must have tracked the beacon. Come, we have to get out of here." They ran up the stairs. Darren was already up, checking his rifle. "Looks like trouble found. Us again," he said. Valshera grabbed his arm. "They know I activated the heart echo. They'll do anything to stop us now." The ship's crew moved quickly. Rivek barked orders. Shields powered up. Weapons deployed. Outside, the enemy ships appeared. Sleek, black, glowing red, each one larger than the ones before. Valshera looked through the screen as the enemy commander appeared in a transmission. His face was pale, sharp, eyes glowing, with purple fire. "Valshera," he said coldly, "you were supposed to die in silence. You should have stayed forgotten." She stepped forward, her voice calm but burning. "You should have let me live. Now, I've found my voice." The enemy gave a cruel smile. "Then we'll silence you the old way." The screen went dark. Moments later, the sky exploded in war. Darren and Valshera strapped into crash seats as the ship shook under impact. Rivek shouted for evasive maneuvers, but something deep in Valshera pulsed again. The voice from the orb. The power in the valley. The feeling when she faced the beast. She wasn't afraid anymore. She reached out with her mind, searching, feeling, stretching into the energy of the ship, the crew, even the stars outside. And they answered. The ship's lights pulsed in time, with her heart. The engine surged forward like a living thing. The enemy's lock-on systems failed. Rivek's eyes went wide. "She's linking with the ship," Valshera's voice echoed in the chamber. I'm not running anymore. I'm finding the spire. I'm claiming what was mine. And for the first time, Darren saw her not as a scared girl, but as something more. A rising queen. Rise of the forgotten heir. The rebel ship streaked through the stars like a blade of light, powered by more than just engines now. Powered by Valshera herself. She sat in the command seat, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on the glowing arms of the throne-like chair. Energy hummed around her. The ship's systems, navigation, shields, engines, responded to her thoughts. She wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was becoming something more. In the background, warning lights still flashed. Enemy ships followed close behind, but their targeting systems had gone blind. Their weapons, once sharp and deadly, now missed. Wide or failed to lock on at all. Darren stood beside her, holding on to the console. He watched the screens with wide eyes. She's controlling it, he whispered, like it's alive, like it's listening to her. Commander Rivek nodded, amazed. The last queen of the Oravani had this gift, starlinking, but even she needed decades of training. Valshera is doing it instinctively. Just then, Valshera opened her eyes. They won't stop, she said calmly. Not until I'm erased. Rivek stepped forward. That's why we have to reach the Ecliptor spire. If you sit the throne, if the old system accepts you, their claim is finished. You'll be untouchable. Valshera looked at the floating map. And if the throne rejects me? Rivek didn't answer. The silence said enough. Darren placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, you're not alone. Valshera looked at him with something soft in her eyes. Gratitude, maybe even the beginning of trust. Then let's finish this, she said. Hours later, the ship exited hyperspace into a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Ahead of them floated a shattered world. A broken moon. Huge rings of debris spun slowly in orbit. Ruins of massive structures floated among them, once great towers, now dust and stone. This is it, Rivek said. This is the grave orbit. The Ecliptor spire is inside that moon. But it's destroyed, Darren said. How can the throne be inside that? Valshera stepped closer to the window. Her eyes narrowed. No, she whispered. It's not destroyed, it's hidden. She reached out and again something answered. A hidden signal echoed through the ship. A soft hum. A door in space opened, invisible before. A glowing pathway appeared, light on top of stone. An ancient bridge leading inside the moon's heart. They followed it in. The rebel ship slowed as they entered a massive hollow chamber inside the moon. At the center stood the Ecliptor spire, an ancient structure of black stone and silver veins floating in zero gravity. Symbols glowed across its surface. It looked dead, cold, until Valshera stepped onto it. The spire pulsed with light. Lines of energy raced up its walls. The structure came alive. Ancient engines powered up. Lights flickered on. The heart of a dead empire had awakened. A platform lowered like a bridge. Valshera walked forward alone. At the center was the star throne, a floating seat made of crystal, metal, and light. Around it, holograms of past queens flickered, some proud, some sorrowful. Valshera approached. A voice spoke again, not from the ship, not from the orb, but from the spire itself. Blood matched. Thread confirmed. Royal presence detected. Valshera swallowed hard. Do you wish to claim the star throne? She looked behind her. Rivek stood tall. Darren gave a small nod. Valshera stepped forward and placed her hands on the throne's. Arms I do, she said. The throne lit up, and so did she. Energy flowed into her body. Visions flashed of wars, queens, betrayals, and hope. She saw the galaxy as it once was and what it had become. She screamed, but she did not pull away. She held on. The throne accepted her. The spire exploded with golden light. Towers straightened. Broken parts healed. The ruins glowed as if time rewound. Outside, the rebel ship hovered in silence. Then a pulse of energy shot out of the spire. A signal. A call. A declaration. Across distant planets, deep in hidden colonies among the stars, ancient receivers activated. Exiled citizens of the old kingdom saw the signal. The true heir had returned. But not everyone celebrated. Back in the outer systems, the High Elders received the signal too. Inside a dark chamber, cloaked figures watched in silence. "She has claimed the throne," one said bitterly. "It cannot be undone now," said another. "Then we do what must be done," spoke the oldest. "We activate Protocol Zeros." A red button was pressed. Far across the stars, hidden inside a black asteroid, something ancient and monstrous awoke. Not a machine, not a drone, but a living weapon. Its eye opened, bright, red, and angry. Back at the Ecliptor spire, Valshera stood tall, still glowing faintly. Her skin no longer trembled. Her voice was steady. "I remember now," she said. "I remember who I am." Rivek bowed. "Queen of the Starborn, Guardian of the Nine Gates, wielder of the Crown Pulse." Darren just smiled. "You're still Valshera to me." She turned toward them. "We've awakened hope. But they will come." "They already have," Rivek said, pointing to the ship's sensors. "Incoming, fast, massive, unknown." Darren's voice went low. "What is that?" The screen showed a twisted black ship made of living metal, shaped like a serpent and the size of a city. It wasn't flying, it was hunting. Valshera looked at the throne. "Then we fight, not to run, not to hide." She stepped forward, and the spire responded. Walls shifted, weapons activated, old defenses rose. The Queen was no longer forgotten. She had risen, and the galaxy would remember her name. The girl who chose to live. The stars were quiet, too quiet. Inside the Ecliptor spire, Valshera stood tall at the center of the throne chamber, light still pulsing softly from her fingertips. The ancient fortress had accepted her. The throne had awakened for her, but now the true test was coming. A weapon older than any war, a creature of living metal and rage, was on its way. It moved through the stars like a shadow, swallowing everything behind it. Black, coiled, and massive. Its shape shifted as it flew, part serpent, part ship, part nightmare. It had no crew, no pilot. It was the weapon. It was called Zeros, and it was designed for one purpose: to erase the royal bloodline forever. In the command center of the spire, Darren and Commander Rivek stood beside the glowing map. "It's close," Rivek said grimly. "It will arrive in minutes." "How do we stop something like that?" Darren asked. Rivek was silent. Valshera entered the room. Her presence was different now, still gentle, still calm, but stronger. Her eyes glowed with purpose. She wasn't a girl on the edge of a tower anymore. She was the queen of a dying legacy, and maybe its last chance. "It's not just a weapon," she said softly. "It's a test, a final one. The Elders created Zeros as a way to erase us completely, if we ever returned." Darren looked at her. "Can the spire fight it?" Valshera looked around. "Not alone." She walked to a console and touched a crystal. The spire began to shift again. Walls retracted. Hidden towers rose. Docks opened. Ancient cannons activated and turned toward the sky. And then something else happened. Across the galaxy, those who had seen the beacon earlier, the old allies, rebels, exiled Oravani supporters, began to respond. One by one, ships dropped out of hyperspace around the shattered moon. Small at first, then dozens, then hundreds. Fighters, cargo vessels, drones, even old warships patched together with scrap. All answering the call of a queen they thought lost to time. A woman's voice came through the comms. "This is Captain Onira of the Forgotten Flame. We serve the rightful heir." Another voice followed. "This is the Driftborn clan. Our ancestors swore loyalty. We keep the vow." Valshera stepped forward. Her voice echoed through the system. This is Valshera of House Orivani. I do not ask you to die for me. I ask you to rise with me. Because if we don't stop Zeros now, none of us have a future. And so the sky filled with lights. Not of fear, but of unity. Zeros arrived like a nightmare given form. It broke through the edges of the battlefield, its red eye glowing brighter than any sun. Its voice, deep and inhuman, echoed into the minds of all who heard it. Royal thread detected. Target, Valshera. Commencing full planetary erasure. The battle began. Zeros unleashed waves of burning energy tearing through ships. Fighters dove and rolled, trying to distract it. Cannons from the spire fired beams of ancient power, hitting its side but barely slowing it down. Valshera stood at the throne console, connected to the spire with strands of energy. She felt every hit, every scream, every ship lost. Darren rushed to her side. You have to pull back. She shook her head. If I break the link, the defenses fall. Ryvek joined them, wounded but standing. There's one more way. One last command the throne can give. The crown pulse. But only you can use it, and it may kill you. Valshera looked at him. What is it? He pointed to the heart of the throne, an orb she hadn't touched yet. You channel all of the spire's power into yourself. Become the voice of the Empire. One final message. If your will is strong enough, you can destroy Zeros from within. Darren grabbed her hand. No, we find another way. Valshera looked at him, her voice calm. I didn't survive to run. I didn't rise to watch others die for me. She stepped to the throne and placed her hands on the final orb. The moment her palms touched the core, everything stopped. Time froze. She stood in a strange place, a place between worlds. All around her were echoes of the past, queens, warriors, children, lovers, people who once believed in the Orivani name. A voice spoke, not from outside, but from within her. You have chosen to live. Will you now choose to lead? She whispered. Yes. The energy surged. Her body became light. Her heart pulsed in rhythm with the stars. She saw Zeros, its mind, its core, its origin. It was built from fear, shaped by hatred, and she spoke into it, not with rage but with grace. I am not your enemy. I am your end. The light exploded outward. Outside, the battlefield went still. Zeros stopped mid-attack. Its eye flickered. Then, it shattered. The black metal uncoiled. Its body cracked. A sound like thunder echoed through space as its pieces burned and vanished into stardust. The queen had spoken. Inside the spire, the light faded. Valshera collapsed into Darren's arms. She was weak, trembling, but alive. The orb dimmed. The throne pulsed once, then went still. Darren held her tightly. You did it. You're here. You're still here. She looked up at him, smiling faintly. I chose to live. Not just once, but every time they tried to break me. Ryvek knelt beside them. The spire is yours, my queen. And now, so is the future. Weeks later, the Ecliptar spire had become a beacon once again, a city of voices. Refugees, rebels, scholars, soldiers, all gathered under the light of a queen who had nearly given up, but chose to rise. Valshera stood on a balcony, her new robe flowing in the wind. Beside her, Darren adjusted his new badge, Royal Guardian. Still, weird to be called Sir, he muttered. She smiled. Still weird to be called Your Majesty. They looked out over the stars. What now? He asked. She answered softly. Now, we rebuild. Not the old empire. Not what was. But something better. A galaxy where no one stands at the edge alone. Like I did. She turned to him. You saved me, Darren. He shook his head. You saved yourself. I just reminded you that your life still mattered. Valshera nodded, her eyes glowing again. Not with fear, but with purpose. I was the girl who wanted to fall, she whispered. Now I am the queen who chose to rise.